Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I am so excited tonight that I have one of my old guests from more than 2 years ago that was on the show to explain to us about the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We always hear the word TDC, Texas Department of Corrections, the local state prison, but we rarely talk about the Bureau of Prisons, BOP, or Federal Bureau of Prisons, FBOP. It's been in the news lately because President Obama and Congress have relaxed some of the sentencing guidelines. So people who went to prison in the 90s, who were supposed to do really, really long sentences like 20 and 30 years, are starting to get some time cut down. And a lot of the newspapers created scandals like 6,000 Bureau of Prisoners, federal prisoners about to be put out back in our society, like to scare us. And so I've tried to talk in December to people who've been to federal prison and tell their stories and find out about their successes. So in the studio tonight, I have one such person, Mr. Troy Bounds. So thank you, Troy, for agreeing to talk tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell us your story. And then I also have my recurring co-host, Mr. Danny Sneed. So, Troy, we're going to talk tonight about Bureau of Prisons, but first I want you to give our listeners your background story. Tell us about your growing up and going to Jack H. You know, I still remember your story, and being the drum major, and how just that lifestyle caught you up, and how you ended up doing 14 years straight flat time in the federal prison.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me, Ms. King. My name is Troy Bounds. Grew up in South Park, and like you said, I went to high school, was a drum major, and ended up at Texas Southern, actually. I was in the band section leader at Texas Southern, and got caught up in the streets. Wasn't a bad kid, but got caught up in the desires, if you will, of the world, the cars, the clothes, and you know what goes with that. And long story short, I started selling drugs and actually trafficking cocaine. I just basically took it to and fro, never really stood on the streets and actually sold. And ended up...
So you like the mule?
Yes, exactly. And ended up getting caught in a federal conspiracy because we didn't actually get caught by law enforcement. Some guys ended up taking the cocaine that they would buy from us to Victoria, Texas, and ended up getting caught in a drug ring in Victoria. And of course, as the good old federal government, they allow guys who get caught up that if you just tell us where you got it from, you know, we'll lighten your sentence. And they ended up telling on my uncle and I, and ended up getting 20 and 30 years between the two of us. And we did our time in federal prison. I did 14, he did 15 years.
Well, what was your actual sentence, Troy?
My actual sentence was 235 months, according to the U.S. Sentencing Guidelines, subsection 2D1.1. 4.68 kilograms of crack cocaine, of which there were no drugs. All of the drug amounts that the court added up were simply based on the informant's testimony in trial. There were no actual drug amounts. The actual crime took place 2 to 3 years prior to our indictment.
Let me tell you what's so cool about the federal system is there is no dope.
No, ma'am.
You know what I mean? I mean, in a state trial, if you get charged with drugs, Troy, me, Danny gets charged with drugs, they're going to bring all those drugs into the courtroom.
Right.
They got those drugs sitting in a lab or sitting in a property room. And if you're caught with trafficking drugs, there is going to be drugs that is weighed by a chemist that's going to testify to that. So that's what's so cool about the federal system is that there's no dope a lot of times. People are not caught with drugs, but they're caught talking on the phone about drugs. People tell it you basically get convicted on hearsay and your free speech rights, really. I mean, because people can talk about saying I'm going to do something all day long and not do it. I mean, I can say I'm going to sell my body to you tonight at midnight, and we can have a price.
Yeah.
I mean, but I might have no intent of ever going to see you. Just bullcorn. And a lot of those, I mean, that's what's so screwed up about the federal system is that a lot of times there's no dope. Don't mean that you haven't sold it before, but you're getting punished, but you're not really getting punished necessarily for what you actually did. But go ahead and tell us more specifically. You got 234 months. What does that equate to in years?
It's 19 years, 7 months, 235 months, 5 months shy of 20 years. And it was based on the sentencing guidelines. It was a base offense level 38.
Now let me ask you this: you and your uncle basically was the one that kind of got you in the game, right?
Right.
Talk about that for a minute.
Long story short, he was dating my aunt, and very, very likable guy. Took a liking to him. Of course, I'm liking what I see. And
How old were you then?
I was about 18 or 19, somewhere in between. And the closer and closer my aunt and he became, I started liking the things that he had. I never ever wanted to do anything wrong. I never stole, stole cars or robbed or anything like that. But I wanted the nice things. And I would try to talk to him, man, won't you let me in the game? He was like, no, you in school, stay in school. But of course, over time, you wear on a person. And he was like, you know what, I'm gonna give you a shot. And he did. And like I said, I got in the game, got out of the game, and I was on my own. I was in college, I was married, I was worked for an insurance company. I was doing pretty good for myself. And like I said, the federal government came and indicted he and I 2 to 3 years after these actions, took place, based solely on the informant testimony of about 5 guys who bought drugs from us and were going to Victoria, Texas, like I said, and they got caught up and they just drug us into it to have their sentences reduced. And we got our time and their time all stacked together because we wouldn't tell on nobody, if you will. And that's one of the greatest travesties to me of the justice system, is not only what they did, like you were speaking of, how they don't have to have as much evidence, and then they take you to they threaten you with trial, of which really you should never go to trial against the federal government because they don't have to prove anything.
They don't have to prove anything.
And then they put you against a jury to say, well, is he innocent or is he guilty? And you may feel like I did something wrong, but I didn't do it the way that they're accusing me.
Right.
And according to what the jurors are supposed to do, is they're supposed to acquit you. But of course, that's not going to happen because if the government brought you in here, you did something. Yeah, and that's the average juror's
That's the average juror's mentality. Yep, that's a big old beast to fight against.
Yes,
it's
yes.
a beast. I fought it many times, and that federal system is it's a beast.
Oh,
There's
yes.
no other way to describe it
None.
other than the federal system is a
And
beast.
It's the most crooked beast in the world.
Oh, it's cold. It's cold.
It's dirty.
I stopped doing federal cases in the 90s because I was in court one time about to just do a little credit card scam, Nigerian guy case, and Hittner came out there and announced that the kingpin that was about to go to trial hang himself. Back there, they used to have a little holding cell right behind the judges. I don't know if you remember that in the 90s.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am.
And they were about to start their trial, but we were getting our little pleas done or whatever sentencing. And he came out there and said, I just have to announce that we are not having a trial today. He had Mr. Rivera going to trial later this afternoon at 1 has hanged himself.
Wow.
I was like, God. That's cold.
I've been around
I
all
mean,
that.
people give out some time. They give out time like it's Halloween candy down there, don't they?
Like it's candy.
Like it's candy.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's cold.
And I don't understand how somebody can go into the federal system, do all of that time, or watch guys get all of that kind of time for little or nothing, and then go back. It's crazy to me because there's no way. I see how dirty the game is.
It's dirty.
I see how crooked they play. Why would I put myself back in that position? I don't.
I mean, because the thing that's so cold in the federal system sometimes, now, I don't mean across the board, there's no absolutes, but sometimes the game, the government, the players in the FBI and the narc agents, they dirtier than anybody they coming after. That's what's so cold.
They're the biggest
you want them to be honest, and they dirty as hell.
They're the biggest
Let me tell you what
crooks.
turned me off in federal. If I got somebody that might be so damn scared that he want to tell it, okay? And you get rewarded for telling it.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of lawyers don't like doing snitches. I don't, but some MFs are just scared, okay? So they just a lot of people I've had, they talk before I even got hired.
Right.
Them feds scare them
That's right.
so bad.
That's right.
They scary. So
That's
it ain't shit you can do then. I mean,
That's
they've
right.
already told their story.
That's right.
But the thing is, it's so cold is they might have told what happened, crying like a baby, want to go on and just get a lawyer that's going to cut their time down because, you still got to go through the PSR process and the, objecting to the points and getting the points together. Then they tell them if they're going to testify against somebody else, the feds, Danny, write the script.
Yes.
They write the script for the cops. That's what's so cold. You can't tell the truth as it was.
Right.
You got to tell the truth
Like
as
this.
they say.
This is what they did to us.
And if it ain't the way they say it,
So what?
you are not truthfully cooperating. And you
receive
won't
your
get that 5K
downward
1.1.
departure,
You are
downward
not going to get
departure.
that downward departure.
That's right.
And that's what's so cold. I have looked with tears in my eyes at DEA agents, and I
Yes.
said, the dude has told you everything he knows, but we want him to say this.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Instructed
Yes.
how they wanted.
Yes.
Yes.
They tell them what to say.
Yes.
It ain't true. They
Yes.
tell them to lie.
And not only
And
that,
the lawyers got to just punk back,
That's
punk
right.
down, and I ain't no punk. I can't take it. I quit doing federal. I
watch
couldn't
it go
do it.
down. You gotta
okay?
watch it go down.
You got to watch it go down. You got to tell your client, even if it didn't happen like that,
That's
the
right.
DEA say you got to say it like that because
right.
that's their truth, which is a lie.
That's
and
right.
you got to tell their lie, or you're not gonna get this 5K. Now they've already told it to get off their chest. However they were raised, they needed to tell it. Okay?
Right.
They told everything they knew.
right.
But they need more to convict somebody else. Okay?
Oh, okay. So what it is a chain. You're supposed to create a narrative that convicts the next guy when he comes
Right.
in.
And the
Right.
next guy.
And the next guy.
And
And the
they
next guy.
they do
But
the
see, in
same thing with
conspiracy-
each link in the chain
Yes.
Right.
and
But
conspire
you
you
might
all
not see in a
together.
conspiracy.
Yes.
Everybody don't have to know each other.
Right.
But they'll try to make people know each other that don't know each other. And sometimes
Right.
some of the nicknames on the recordings are the same as somebody else's. So
Right.
then they make it big. No, they weren't talking about that Keith. They were talking about the Keith that they wanted to be talking
Exactly.
about. No, they changed the game. They tell you to lie.
And I've seen in prison guys, for example, let's say if Ron is going back to court to testify against whomever, if they don't have enough, if they're not as confident in Ron by himself winning their case, they'll tell Ron to find some other guys in prison who either knew that guy, or if they didn't know that guy, if they want to get some time off of their sentence, act like they knew that guy. Show them pictures. Tell them the story, the same story that we coerced you to tell him that same story. And I've seen them with my own eyes. I've talked to them. They used to call it a tour bus. And they'll fabricate stories, get guys that don't even know this person or those people to fabricate that same story. But now we have more witnesses to tell the same story.
Because of that one person who wanted to go to trial.
Yes.
Because sometimes a person in a conspiracy, it might be 5 people in a conspiracy, but one guy is least culpable, less guilty, and he don't want to go. He wants to go to trial because
Right.
they lying too much on him.
Right.
And this person might have told it to get it off his chest. It might not know nothing on this one.
Right.
Because these two together might be the ones who did something. These two together, but they all link everybody together. So they'll tell him, well, I need you to say this about that person. And most people will say, well, I just want to tell what I did. I'm trying to confess to the crime I committed.
Right.
I can't tell you what everybody else did.
Right.
No. Well, we're going to tell you this is what we need you to say. And they can't get no credit and get their reduction.
Unless they do it.
Unless they say what they told them
That's
to
right.
say.
Well, can I talk about a real case that's going on now? I got a phone call about 2 hours ago, and I won't call any names, but it's an active case from a brother that has a brother that just was extradited from one county to out of state. The federal agents came, got him, and his brother called him on the phone and said, hey, I love you, but they got me. And really, what he's charged with is being with a group of guys here in Houston that was doing robberies, jewelry robberies. And so what they're doing, they caught one, and now that they caught one,
Oh, yeah.
they're linking them all together. So he just got extradited for conspiracy. So the brother says, what do you think he's facing? And based on the information I learned, I said, well, I believe that the federal government works like on a point system, that it's a measurement of time already out there based on not negotiable like in the state level.
Right.
It's going to be based on a point system.
Exactly.
Does he have priors?
Right.
You know, there's some.
I'm going to let Troy explain that.
Yeah,
to you.
go ahead.
Right.
Troy, Troy, go ahead and explain how the federal system works.
The feds sentence you to what is called a sentencing guidelines, and it can be. I'm not really sure what they base it on with robbery, but with drug cases, it's 100% based on drug amounts, and for every drug amount, there's a particular amount of time that goes with it. The sentencing table goes down as like the numbers increase, going down from 20. Mine was up as high as 38. 38 is the highest you can go according to drug amounts. but then your enhancement can take you past 38. For example, my base offense level was 38 based on 4.6 kilograms of crack cocaine, but now I had a 2-point enhancement for some guns that I had, and then I had a 3-point enhancement. They said I was the kingpin's right-hand man, so they gave me a leader organizing
Leadership
enhancement.
role.
Yes, that took me from 38 to 43. On the federal sentencing table, 43 carries life without parole. But now my 38, my base offense level 38 without the enhancement carried 235 to 297 months. And they can only sentence me within that 235 to 297 months. Now, let's say I just had an ounce of cocaine, my base offense level may have been a 28 instead of a 38. And then there's a particular amount of time that goes with that base level 28. It could have been 60 months to 87 months. If I had 2 priors, it would take me across the table from the 60 to 87 range up to 87 to 100 range because of my priors.
Right, and that part of the table is in alphabetical order. So you got the
Yes.
number table, then you got the A, B, C, D
Yes.
shape, then you got that part. It's a real complicated table, don't you
Yes.
think?
Oh, yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, you got to be smart to understand the
Right.
table. It's so complicated that as a lawyer, I don't try to explain it to my clients. It's just too hard. Some of
Yeah,
my clients are just not smart enough. I
yeah,
mean, because
it's-
it's something you have to study.
Right.
So the whole probation department, that's all they do. They're smart, college educated, master's educated. Some are lawyers that calculate those guidelines for everybody that goes in that federal system. The Congress in the 80s took it completely away from the prosecutor and from the judge. It is
Right.
it's the probation department's job to calculate points. And then you have a sentence, that's in the PSR, pre-sentence report, and then you fight about the points. So like his lawyer, the only thing his lawyer could do was object to the leadership role.
That's it.
So he could say, okay, you can't stop the 38
At
points,
all.
the base level. You
No,
can't
ma'am.
stop that because that's based on the quantity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's what Congress creates the sentencing guidelines. Let me say it again. Congress creates the sentencing guidelines.
Yes.
So even though people blaming it on President Clinton, it was Congress that created it.
Right.
Now he signed it into
Right.
law, but he didn't write it.
No.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Congress had a team of people that studied this for years before it became a bill, which is a law, that then had to go before the Senate in the 80s. Then the president could either sign it or veto it.
Right.
Clinton didn't veto it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't want my viewers to be misunderstood now when his wife is running and they're saying, well, Clinton changed the law. Clinton, I guess he did in that he signed it, and he didn't have to sign it.
Right.
But back then, in the 80s, there was an outcry about crack. That's when crack had hit the street, and there was a crazy outcry. So Congress maybe overreacted. But what I want you to understand from the educational piece, viewers, is that you always need to stay close to and know who your congressperson is. And if you go to your voter registration card online, Harris County Votes, you can find it. It'll tell you, in particular, who all of your congresspeople are, your state representatives, and all of the people who represent you in those districts. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and one of the arguments they used back then to get that act in place was, again, the outcry for the neighborhood. They said it wasn't just the crack that was causing the problem. They were saying it was so highly addictive, and it was linked to violence.
Right. Which was,
And it was
which was a lie, but go ahead.
right, and it was the violence was centered in the minority neighborhoods.
Right.
So they were saying is we're going to help the poor communities
Get rid
basically
get rid of this
right,
epidemic
because
in the-
they will be the ones most victimized by the
Right.
crack cocaine
Right.
epidemic. So when you realize, and I want to take petty advocates here because I was part of not being the victim. I was part of more of the
Perpetrator.
right.
Say it.
So I'm
Own
just
it.
gonna keep it 100 right here.
Yeah, keep it 100,
Let me
baby.
tell you how bad it got. That on Sundays in my neighborhood, when you were on your way to Sunday school, people was trying to sell the people going to church crack cocaine
Wow.
on the street
Where were you living then?
in Texarkana, Texas. And my neighborhood is called Newtown. And I don't know how this small little neighborhood all of a sudden in a city with maybe back then 55,000 people, our neighborhood was drug haven. I'm like, we were known for a lot of things. Like, how was most of the cocaine and this year was around, I guess it started probably like 86, 87, 88, 89, that most of the heavyweighters were in my neighborhood. And the police really hadn't figured out
Right.
how we bought drugs and how we sold drugs.
Right.
But basically, you stood on the street and you just stood out openly and you held the rocks in your hand. And when cars went by, you flagged them down. And you basically saying, hey, I got cocaine here. And if the police come, you just stood there, you wave at them. Then the next car right behind the police car, you try to flag them down. And if the car stopped, 10 guys would run to the car. I got the biggest rock. I got the biggest rock.
Wow.
But it became violent when people began to rob drug dealers not give you good cocaine. But I digress and let him finish. But it was just bad, and I lived in a small neighborhood. And I just remember that part about going to church on Sunday and people stopping the people trying to get to church. And they were breaking the church and take all the speakers, systems out of churches.
Anything to get high. And it got bad. I'm not saying that it didn't get bad, but crime has always been, in my neighborhood, I grew up in South Park, Houston, Texas, and I grew up in Wesley Square Apartments. And it's always been bad. Before crack, back when they were shooting needles,
T's
heroin.
and blues.
Yes, sir. Boy and girl, they were shooting up,
Sets.
popping pills, Quaaludes and T's and blues. It's always been bad in the hood. But and yes, crack got bad, but when we're talking about legislation and talking about making a change and making a difference, what they did was targeted. The young black male was targeted because if you're trying to stop the cocaine, and let's not just say crack, if you're trying to stop this cocaine epidemic, when you make laws to stop it, why single out crack cocaine?
And not the dealers.
If you cannot make crack without powdered cocaine.
Okay.
So if we're trying to get rid of cocaine, make cocaine 100 times harsher. But they want they not only want to lock the black male up, they want to give him life, lock him up forever. And that's where the travesty of justice came in. It wasn't, everything that they did legally was fine, but why single out and say, okay, we're gonna, if we catch you with 5 grams or more, which is probably about 10 to 15 rocks, we're gonna give you a mandatory minimum of 5 years. But now if I catch you with 5 ounces of cocaine, which the white boys are probably more likely to get caught with, then
Or the Colombians.
we're gonna give them the same 5 years. Whereas if I say, okay, well, if you get caught with any amount of cocaine, this is what you get. That's justice
Point blank
across
period.
the board.
Right.
Black, white, red, brown, blue, purple.
Everybody.
That's justice. But that's not what they wanted. They wanted to single out this person or these particular group, and that's why they made it crack cocaine. Who's more likely to be targeted? Who's more likely to get caught with it? It was bad in the hood. It's bad in the hood now.
So they criminalization. They made our living areas criminal zones. That's basically what it became. Where in state prisons and federal prisons, most of the people in our neighborhoods were the people who were housed in these places. And the sad thing, Vivian, is all those years and during that era, it was a lot of absentee fathers for a long time in our communities. And the long-term effects is still there, that you see in our communities now. I believe it's being rebuilding because we have a model or a face of what success looked like in President Obama. Before that, what we saw is success is a football player or entertainer, which wasn't accessible to us, but we saw the lavish material things they had.
The best chance you got.
But we found out that a lot of them didn't graduate high school.
Right.
Your Drakes, your T.I.s. How do you become successful and say, I didn't finish high school, and then you tell this guy, you need to at least finish high school, when these guys are sitting on millions, you see them on TV all the time. I digress.
Yeah, let's go back to the story if we can. So let me summarize your story again. So you and your uncle was already involved in the game. So y'all happen to sell, you're the mule, you're the deliverer, to some guys from Victoria. They go to Victoria, they get caught, and then they snitch on y'all. Just the two of you? Just you and your uncle?
That's it.
That's it.
It was just he and I. We weren't trying to be Nino Brown, New Jack City. We were just.
It's just
you know,
the two of you.
yeah,
All
that's
right.
it.
So you end up getting 235 months because you went to trial.
Yes, we went to trial.
And your uncle went to trial.
Yes.
Now tell me why y'all went to trial.
We didn't think it was right for them to be able to come and say what they said we did, and we're saying we didn't do it. So that's
So it's just hearsay. So y'all is
Yes.
just like he said against she said,
How can
but
you-
no dope at all.
none,
None. So you went to trial with no dope, just talking.
just hearsay.
Just hearsay. That's cold though.
We didn't think with the state mentality, we didn't think, you know, in the state you have to have physical
You got to
evidence.
have the physical evidence.
And we don't know anything about the feds. We
Right.
don't know anything. So we're thinking, man.
But you didn't trust your. Let's talk about this, Danny. Come on, let's stay engaged. So why don't you trust your lawyer? And I'm real frustrated with this right now because I have a young man right now that I'm real upset about because he's not trusting me and he's asking me too many questions. One of which we went and saw on Sunday, and I'm real mad today. I lost my cool, which I try not to do, and he turned into a lot of MFs. And oh yeah, I cussed him out. Oh, I went there today, and I'm gonna tell you about that later.
There's a mentality that
Because I know your lawyer had to tell you.
Attorneys, no, they really didn't. They really didn't. And from the streets, there's a mentality that attorneys work with the prosecutor, you know, both sides.
Right.
And when we went to the attorneys, they were telling us what they're saying you all did this. Okay, well, I'm telling you that I didn't do it.
Right.
So I'm asking you to fight for me to prove that I didn't do it. They can't prove something that happened 3 years ago.
Right.
It's not on videotape. It's his word against. Now we don't know how the government. And this is hindsight. They're going to take his word, combined with his word and his word and his word and
Collaborate
his word.
it.
Yes, sir.
And the police word. Because
That is-
everybody believes the police.
Collaborate the story.
against-
Now,
against
but
you
let me
too.
ask you this. How can I, as a lawyer, communicate that to someone? You know, that's what I'm trying to learn. One of the reasons why I thought a few years ago, I'm going to start this TV show so people can tell their stories. That'll help the community. But then I started realizing I'm almost aging out of the criminal game at 57. So I'm going to get Danny, who's mature, who's been through the system. Maybe he can help me communicate with these young men because they drive me crazy because I'm a warrior. I'm a soldier. If you say try my case, I'm going to tell you all the pros and cons of trying it, but I'm going to get down with you. You know what I mean? I'm going
Right.
to give you the biggest song of this. You're going to think it
Right.
should have been on TV. Oh, I ain't no punk, okay?
Right.
But
I've heard.
I can't change the facts. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I can't change the system.
Right.
And I got to work within this system.
I think that's a great idea, using someone like him or myself to
Yeah.
kind of bridge the gap, because we can speak their language from where they are.
Right.
I've been in that
Yeah,
seat.
see, I've never been in that seat.
We had supposed to be the big boys of you know, the drug cases back in those days.
You had the big choice lawyers. I forgot who you had.
It was Kent Schaefer,
Yeah, they're the
Dick
big
DeGarra,
boys, yeah.
Mike DeGarra,
Those are the
guys.
big boys, yeah.
And so, but again, coming with that street mentality, we didn't give it to us raw and uncut.
I give it to them raw though.
Right.
I do.
They
give
didn't give it to us
But it
raw
don't
and
matter.
uncut.
It don't matter if
Because
you
they
get it
want our
from-
money.
from a Kent Schaefer. I mean, I don't think it matters really because
It doesn't matter what the feds. I don't care
I mean,
who
I
you
don't.
get.
But I'm thinking your lawyer. No, it don't matter what the feds who you get. But it doesn't matter how your lawyer gives it to you. So, like, if you'd have got it from Kent, you know, from a white Jewish guy's perspective, and he's a fantastic, great lawyer, fantastic lawyer. And both of those lawyers are great lawyers. Or if you get it from a black girl like me, I don't think you were still saying the same thing because we got to explain to you
Right.
the sentencing guidelines. We
Right.
got to explain to you hypothetically this is how a trial works. So I don't know, what could you have heard to understand you needed to take a plea?
The guys in the county jail, the guys in the federal holdover that have either been sentenced or they've seen guys get, hey man, I don't care what you do, man, do not go in there and fight them people. I just got 20 years, man. I didn't have somebody that can speak to it from inside.
Yeah, because I can't do it. And
No,
see, people
no.
are, well, all of my clients here is that, well, first of all, I have a good reputation, so people know I'm going to fight for them now.
Right,
But
right.
the thing is, I still have to fight with my clients, and this is the bottom line.
Right.
And they lied to you for months.
Right.
And this is what
See, Danny's learning that. They lie. Ooh, they lie.
But see what they.
Because I represent a lot of people accused of murder and robbery, the crimes people hate, state crimes. And so that's why they're in jail. So I see them on Sundays because they can't bond out.
Right.
The bonds are too high or they're just not bondable. And so that's really a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't deal a lot of drug guys anymore because the young drug guys, a lot of them do the drugs. They talk crazy to you, and I can't be disrespected at this. I'm
ma'am.
aging out. Like I said, I
Right,
can't. You
right.
can't call me sugar honey,
None of that.
baby. Talk no
Right.
bullshit. I ain't having none of it.
right.
Okay, I can't have it. So, but I do have some drug guys if they're older. But the deal is, like for example, I'm gonna give you an example. This is not federal at all. So I got a guy get caught with some other guys, and I don't think it's his dope, going back and forth from Virginia. He says it wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. That person, I looked them up. They had a big drug record in Virginia. They're bringing somebody's kid home in June. But for some reason, all these people, driver, he's not that. He's a front seat passenger. Backseat guy got a record for drugs. Front seat guy got a record for drugs. My guy ain't got none. But all of a sudden, he gets charged with a half a kilo. It's state.
Right.
He's caught up. But going back and forth, making his state court date. But one day, you know, in the state, in Harris County, pretrial, they make you P-test every month. Oh, yeah. When you go to court every month, you got a P-test. While you on bond, the judges make you P-test to make sure you're not doing no dope while on bond, waiting for your trial. We got a good opportunity to win this trial, too. The judge is real fair. I believe him. I think it was the guys in the back. I don't know how the cop decided whose it was. But anyway, he pees dirty, so he gets his $100,000 bond revoked. Now, he finds me through super lawyers. I'm a Texas super lawyer in Texas Monthly, so his lawyer in Virginia found me, okay? So that's how I get with this guy. But he's flying in for his court date. He gets his bond revoked after 4 months of flying down every month. Now he's stuck, and he gets charged with half a kilo in state. First offense, never been in trouble for a felony.
Wow.
The range of punishment is 15 to life.
Oh.
And so if you go to trial, you start at 15 years, and it's guns in the car. So you can get an aggravated charge with guns. And, hold on, it gets worse. In Texas, you have to have a case that's it has to have up to 10 years. 10 years has to be somewhere in the amount of sentence. So if you start at 15 years, that's not probatable. Our probation can only be from 2 to 10 years. The 10 years is the maximum probation you can get. So if you got a first-degree felony that's 5 to 99 years, because you could get a 5-year sentence, it can be probated.
Okay.
Because you can get a 10-year sentence, it can be probated. But if you 5 to 99 and they give you 12 years, because 12 years can't be probated because we only go to 10 years probation, but if it's half a kilo with intent to deliver, it's 15 to life. So it's not a probatable offense.
Wow.
Okay, never been in trouble. So I got the DA and the judge, they feeling sorry for him now because the judge has quadrupled his bond or tripled it to $300,000. It's about to be Christmas. His mom was flown in for his court date. His sister's flown in. They realize there's something wrong with this case, but he tested dirty.
Right.
You know, he tested dirty.
Right.
So that's bothering the court, that maybe he's not as innocent as they think because he's testing dirty. So part of my price point was not to visit him because I had a client on bond, but we go see him a couple of times. We can see him Sunday. Now I got the DA to reduce the amount of the drugs, so you can go down to 5 to 99 years instead of 15 to 99. And the judge said the DAs won't do it. They want you to do 5 years in prison. But the judge said she'll be charitable and give you a chance and let you do probation and let it transfer to Virginia.
Oh, wow.
I set all this up.
You
okay?
gotta take advantage of that.
We go see him to make sure. Do you know the day he balked on me?
His mother's behind that.
His mother told me she told him to take it. She called and told me that. That's why I went and saw him Sunday.
I'm listening.
All right, she told me that Saturday or Friday when she was here. He's asking me, well, how much probation does the judge give me? I'm like,
It doesn't matter.
Does it matter? The maximum is 10. What difference does it make?
doesn't
And
matter.
she'll let you off early if you do the program.
It doesn't matter.
But do you remember I had this conversation? The last thing I talked to him about is that if you do this and you don't stop using, you'll be back.
Right. And see, that may be why he doesn't want it.
But let me tell
because
you
he
the
knows
problem.
he's not
Let
going
me
to
tell
do
you the
right.
problem. So you don't know me. I don't tell people to take it. I'm ready to go to trial.
Right.
I'm trying to cut his losses if you want to.
Right.
The reason why I went to see him again to make sure, and it was storming Sunday, and I had something to do. We saw we was trying to see. I try to see my hard criminals, not no little dude like you. But I want you to ask me every question you have. You know what he first told me when I got there today? Now I let him talk to me about this, because you know what do I tell them all, Danny? I'll try your case. It ain't no problem for me.
Right. If you want to fight,
You got to fight her.
I'm about to roll my
Right,
sleeves
yeah.
up. But I don't know if you did it. You lying to
Right.
me. I don't know. I don't
Right.
know the truth.
Right.
But them folks gonna find out the truth once you
Oh,
get
yes,
on that
ma'am.
witness
Oh, yes,
stand.
ma'am.
And I'm not gonna tell you to say no lies. So I don't know the real truth. So I'm just saying, based on what you said, I'm ready to fight. Do you know what he told me? Well, the first thing he said, and this is what made me mad. He said, I was asleep when y'all came Sunday. I wasn't paying attention to what you said.
Wow. It could probably was.
I left and went to another court.
Sound like he was
I came back. He ain't high unless they're getting high and smoking mattresses or something in jail.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you this. You ain't saying the right thing to me. I said,
Right.
first of all, you lucky that the DA agreed to reduce it.
Right.
You lucky that this judge is going to, because it's guns and all kind of shit in this court.
Right.
You lucky the judge is going to let you go. This judge makes you on probation take something called a TRAS, which is a test that you got to take within a month after getting out, and you got to be in the state to do that. They make you live here to do that. She's going to let you get out. Your mama's put enough money on your books for you to catch the bus and go home
Wow.
to Virginia.
You can't beat that.
Or let me set it for trial. I don't care what you want to do. I just don't want to sit here and look at you all day. I got other people to see. I didn't have time. He wasn't supposed to be on my docket today. I had 5 other guys today. But since he was here last week, it's set once a month. But what am I trying to do? Get him home for Christmas.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? They didn't even have enough space for him in the jail today because they don't have, the jails are too crowded, so you can only appear once a month. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm tired.
Right.
You've had enough time to think.
He
I
could've
came
went
to see
home
you
that day.
Sunday. He could have gone home. It's today. He could have gone home today.
Right.
I said, honey, I don't mind whether you want to do this or not. Just tell me, I want to go to trial, Ms. King, or I want to take this deal. Well, I still need to think about it for a little while because you haven't told me how much probation the judge is giving me. I said, does it matter? Does it matter?
Yeah, if you're not going to do
I
right.
can't plea bargain with a judge. Judges don't plea bargain.
Right.
We plea bargain with DAs, and DAs have offered you 5 years in prison. That's the lowest I can get them to give you, and that's reducing it. They are not offering you probation. The judge doesn't plea bargain. Judges declare sentences. Remember TV? They come out and they tell you what you got.
Right.
She was just nice enough to say she'll let you have probation and get on the Greyhound bus and go home and report. We're going to transfer this to Virginia, so you report in Virginia.
Right.
You don't never have to come this way again unless you don't do what you're supposed to do in Virginia.
Yeah, he knows.
Do you know he kept talking to me crazy? I said, you know what? Guess what the next court date they can give you? You in jail, January 25th. That's the next time they're going to have enough room to have a prisoner in the back. Out of the goodness of their heart, the court said, Viv, I'm just not going to make him come back January 25th. We're going to squeeze him back in tomorrow to give him one more day to decide. The courts, everybody trying to get him home for Christmas.
Right.
And that, do you know that's the way I had to leave that? At 1 o'clock. And I was late to somewhere else I was supposed to be, filming my TV show, reality show.
Right.
That's what, and I had 5 other people to deal with beside
I
him.
wonder who he's listening to.
I don't know, but I'm just
must
telling
be.
you from a
It must
lawyer
be.
standpoint, that is the hardest thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? All you have to do is say, Ms. King, I thought about it. I want to go to trial. Ain't no problem with me.
Right.
Say, well, when will the trials be? I went to ask the court. It'll be in February.
I have
And told him that. So what else can I do? I'm just saying, as a lawyer, what else can I do?
I have a theory that what happened to him in the jailhouse, a jailhouse lawyer told him, like I told him, man, you don't take probation because you're not gonna make it.
Well, then you got to go to trial, or you got to take that 5 years.
Well, when someone tell you that, and then you can go home, there's a quagmire right there. So he got
But it's
caught.
different going home in Virginia, because at least you can be around those people. It's different being on probation in Virginia, I would think, than being in Texas.
Well, maybe he knows something we don't know about Virginia
Well,
probation.
see, what I guess my point I'm trying to make is that I don't care. I just need a decision. You know what I'm saying?
Get off the fence.
Yeah, he just said, well, what about this? Well, what about this? When a judge gives you probation, the lawyer is out of it. The lawyers can never negotiate what the terms are. All we can negotiate is keeping your ass out the penitentiary.
And he's scared too.
You see what I'm saying? If you're guilty, you're supposed to go to the pen.
But he's scared.
And probation, you're probating not going to the pen. Is this going to be on my record? I'm like, why are we still talking about
He
this?
first
It's on
time
the
offender.
I've told him this 25 times. If it's on the computer, it's on the record. What is a record to you? I don't even know what he means.
He got 1,000 people
Well,
in his ear.
you know what a first-time offender believes? That this is a dream. I really want you to come in there and tell me, just like you brought me good news, that the next time you come,
They're going to drop the case and you're going to let me
until because it ain't real yet.
Right.
I'm still in a fog. I can't believe that this is my life right now.
Right.
This is not something I'm just making up on the fly.
And what I'm sad
This is
about
what
is that I
happens.
lost my temper and cussed him out. And other guys were saying, I want your card. I listened to you, Miss King.
That may have been good for him, though.
I had to cuss him out. I
He
just
did
went straight crazy on him. I said, I hope I don't have no heart attack back here in
needs
this
to get
jail.
slapped into
'Cause I'm about
reality.
to beat Joe. If I could have whooped his ass, I'd have took him through that bar.
We didn't know.
I want to whoop his ass.
Miss
what
King, I
wanted
was
to
in
do.
the same holding cells that you're talking about under the courthouse, 515 Rusk. We're in the holding cells, and there was
That's
a
the
guy.
federal building for those listening.
There's a guy in there with me. He had a truckload, an 18-wheeler trailer full of cocaine, about 500 kilos.
Oh my God.
And so He was telling.
He about to snitch on everybody.
Right.
He about to go to jail for the rest of his life. I
Right.
stayed away from him because he about to snitch on every damn body. He about to make on shit on you, and every,
Right.
500 kilos.
But when he told us what they offered him, he said they offered him 20 years.
In Fed.
So now, if I didn't get caught with any drugs, tapping on the mic, if I didn't get caught with any drugs,
and you got hope.
so right, that's in my mind, I do. And you asked earlier, why did we go to trial? You know, when you weigh that ignorant, like he was mentioning, I've never been in trouble in my life.
In your life.
You know, and this guy had a 18-wheeler full of live bricks, we call them.
Live. We call them
Yeah,
live
and
bricks.
here I am, I'm in because he said
I
3 years
sold
ago.
him
Right.
something 3 years ago. You're like, they can't convict me for this. And you got these great lawyers.
Right, it doesn't matter. We don't trust them anyway. So it's like, man, we're going to try. I'm fighting this. You can't prove.
This can't happen.
Can't happen. Like
Crank
you said, it's a dream.
Crank it up.
Crank it up. Biggest mistake of my life.
19 years and 7 months later.
But-
God,
but-
and he was a young man. He wasn't but about 20. How old were you, baby?
I was 23 when it started. I was 25 when I started my
when you
time.
went in.
What is hindsight? I mean, I still want, because this is what I tried to convey to another one of your clients. The real reality of when you go to court with these people with the thought.
Oh, that was a murder case.
Well, this is what I said. The assumption is there's a such thing called justice and fairness.
Right. No,
I
sir.
say it is, but that has nothing to do with your situation here. And I said, this is where we miss it.
Yes, sir.
Everything they have in the books is true.
Right.
All the laws are fair,
Right.
but they're not what's happening in the courtroom.
Yeah, exactly.
And I say those is to give us the image to America. On paper, we want it to look like we do things the right way.
Right.
But when they cut the lights on to the courtroom, you have to remember it's a family of people that you're dealing with, called judges, lawyers. They one big happy family.
That's right.
Now they love each other. They eat together.
Right.
They share the same vocation.
Ran me hot.
Right. So when we come through the system,
Ran me hot.
we're outsiders. Now they're gonna fight in courtroom like they hate each other. The
Right.
prosecution.
And go to lunch
But
afterwards.
I said, look at the wrestlers in the WWE. Now they'll build on a fight, but if you stay around the arena, when the wrestling is over with, they all get on the same bus together. They came out. I thought y'all hated each other. How y'all get on the same WWE? Because it's scripted.
Right.
We already know the outcome.
Well,
Now,
let
I'm
me
not
just say
saying it's
this.
scripted.
But even if it's not scripted, if you're in the same vocation, it's just hard to stay mad at each other. You know what I mean? Now, we be
Right.
fighting for real in court, but afterwards, we were all taught, especially the older of us, we were taught to be good sports. And
Right.
so even if you have a football game or a tennis match
Shake
or
hands.
school things, you're supposed to shake hands and be friends after because we live in a civilized society. So a lot of us don't like each other down there. But we actually are playing like we do just so we can be civil. It's hard to stay mad all day long. Your blood pressure's too high.
It's not good for you.
It's not. It's just
not
not
healthy.
healthy.
But as a defendant, though, my attorney, because I was the only defendant that testified, I took the stand. And
I can see why he would let you because you're a good speaker.
she wanted to communicate with me something dealing with me taking the stand.
Who wanted to?
My attorney.
Oh, you had a female attorney.
Yes.
was that?
Who worked under Kent Schaefer. She was
Okay.
Susie Johnson out of Corpus Christi. She worked under, Kent was the lead attorney. And she said, well, have lunch with me after like recess of trial. So we go to lunch and the prosecutor, the assistant, everybody was in there
DA,
together.
everybody.
And she has me sitting at this table with them.
With them?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
no, she's wrong for that.
Yes, ma'am.
I would never do that.
I said, ma'am, don't you ever,
I would never do that.
ever in your life have me around. Oh, we're colleagues. I said, I don't. You're their colleague.
you can't
They're
make this
trying to
stuff
destroy
up.
my life. I don't want to see them. You know,
can't
I don't
make
want to be around. I can't tell you what I really told her. But I was like, I don't care. Don't you ever do that. I was furious. You know.
Wow.
I understand it now, but then
Well, she shouldn't have had you at the same table. No, that's
we
wrong.
were at the same
Not
table.
during the trial. You're supposed to be at the same
During
table.
the trial.
She's supposed to be over there and let them all sit over here. I'm
During
not
the
going to sit with no
trial.
prosecutors during the trial.
During the
That was
trial.
very
Oh, hey,
bad.
Susie. Hey. Oh, hey. I forget her name, but oh, yes.
What did you order?
I was hot.
What did you order? Oh, girl, I got the
I
shrimp.
don't even think I ate. I was so mad. I don't think I ate. I
Wow.
don't think I was able to eat.
Wow. How's your uncle doing now?
Doing good. Doing good.
Is
doing
he out
good.
too?
Yes.
Did y'all ever do time in the same location?
Yes. Toward the end, about the last 4 or 5 years, we did. It was an experience for me
That's
because
a long time of a young man's life, 14
yes,
years.
from 25 to 39.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm
Ooh, that's a
46
long
now.
time. How did you stay? How did you keep hope alive in prison?
I knew, although I did wrong. Well, first of all, my faith. I leaned on my faith, but even through my faith, I realized that yes, I sold drugs, but I didn't do what they said I did. I never sold crack a day in my life. And 12 of the 20 years that I received was because crack cocaine. And you mentioned earlier how they...
And that's what's so cold. You didn't even, I forgot that's your story.
Yes,
You
I
didn't
never
even sell
sold
crack.
crack.
You sold powder. You
Sold powder.
sold what was less on us guidelines. But that's the script part. Listen to this, Danny.
I'm listening.
They made those guys say it was crack.
Right.
It really wasn't crack.
Exactly.
It was powder.
You
So
said
that
that
gave
earlier.
him twice as much time because it was crack. He never
Right.
sold crack.
You said that earlier. And they
forgot that.
scripted those guys to every time they would say we bought powder from them. Well, what did you do with it after you bought it from them? Oh, we took it and we turned it into crack. Oh, okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we didn't understand at the time what they were doing.
Setting it up.
But
It
when
was,
we
it
get
was,
to
it was scripted.
Yes, when we get to sentencing, I'm thinking I'm about to get sentenced to 4.6 kilograms. Of powder,
Okay.
which would have been 8 years.
Right.
And so, and if you go before that, if I'm only facing 8 years in the beginning, now I can take a better plea. I could possibly get 2 years or something a lot less. And even if I have to serve time, I'm at a camp where I'm somewhat free. You know what I mean?
A low security.
It changes the whole complexity of my situation. But again, that's ignorance of the law is no excuse according to.
According to what everybody tells us.
Yes,
Well, we
yes.
had a phone call. Let's see if they're still on the line. Caller, please turn your volume all the way down and ask your question, please. Thank you for calling.
Yes, good show. About the informant, was he compensated for the final tally of the weight of the dope?
Yes, sir. All of them were compensated. They probably started off with anywhere from 12 to 15 years, and they only ended up doing 2 or 3. Because once they complete, as Ms. King said, once they do what the prosecutors were asking of them, they receive a downward departure 5K1 under the sentencing guidelines, the same sentencing guidelines, and then their sentence is reduced based on their testimony or completion of their testimony. So all of them were compensated.
So they're not compensated financially because they were actually caught with the crack, so they're trying to now work down their sentence. So they were compensated with time off instead of doing, like you said, 15 or 18 years they ended up doing. Because remember, they actually were cracking up the powder that they were buying from Mr. Troy and his uncle. So they were supposed to be sentenced harshly because it was crack. But the crack got imputed to Troy, and he was actually selling powder. So he didn't even get charged. He didn't even get convicted of what he actually did. It was more of what they said he did. And there's no crack to even be seen, no dope.
Right.
So that's what's so cold.
And even in 2015, in our neighborhoods, people still believe that they can do the same thing and get the results of becoming mega rich. And it's just like, it's crazy. You would think that education and people like him, and so many people have went to prison, that people are like, oh, no, I don't want to go down that route.
Let me make sure that the caller's finished. So you got another comment, caller?
Yes, about the testimony of the professional witnesses, the FBI, the DEA.
So good.
Don't they ever slip up with all the lies? Are you allowed as a lawyer in court to bring up where they have been caught in past cases big time? And
No, you really can't do it because you really don't know. The transcripts are available, but they're not public records. So it's like right now, how would you know? Like if you get a ticket tonight, how would anybody know how many tickets that cop has written? I mean, there are maybe ways you could do it. If you could go through the Open Records Act, but if it's an active case that's pending, then that record is not subject to the Open Records Act. So it's really we don't know unless a lawyer tells you, or they put on some type of lawyer listserv, a database that says these cops lied, so that how would we get the information, basically? Because it's not readily available because the police reports are confidential. So even if I have a police report in Troy's case, I am confidentially bound from giving it to another lawyer. Does that make sense?
Well, what about this? Since they can lie freely, why can't you? As a lawyer,
Well, let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this right quick. It's against the law to lie to a federal agent. Okay, so you can't lie to a federal agent. So
It's perjury.
it's not perjury, but it's against the law to lie. It's an actual crime to lie to a federal agency. It's not against the law to lie to a Houston police officer. So let me just tell you this. So that's why it's best to remain silent. But let me just tell you another thing that's so cold in federal court compared to state. So, caller, have you ever watched a trial on TV? One of the rules
sure.
of one of the rules of evidence in a state trial, the normal trials you would watch down at 1201 Franklin or one of the civil courts, is all witnesses have to be excluded from the courtroom so that they can't hear each other testify. So that, if I sit in the courtroom and listen to what Troy says, and then I get up to testify later, I can either, if I'm on his side, I can add to what he said and embellish it, or if I'm against him, I can say things to attack what he said. So to be fair, we call it under the rules. There's an exclusion rule that if you're going to testify, you can't be in the courtroom. So the police officers can't hear each other testify in state court. Oh, but that's not the way the feds do it. In federal court, the federal DEA agents and FBI agents sit at the table with the assistant United States attorneys while they're trying the case. So they get to hear all the witnesses testify. They get to hear all the defense witnesses, all the prosecution witnesses, and then they testify last. And then they get up and clean it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they're not excluded from hearing. In state court, they're excluded from hearing what the witnesses have testified to. It's a big difference. And that's another reason why the feds don't lose, is because the officers have heard everybody testify, the whole trial is over. Then they get up last and raise their right hand with a uniform on to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And they can then fix everything that went wrong. Because if an officer said it happened, it had to be true.
One more question, please. What about motions for the shenanigans you describe? And I'll say good show and good night.
Thank you. There's no motions for that. Motions are just to get something. A motion is asking the court to make the government give you something. In terms of trial, it's just fair play.
Ultimately,
See, the jury's, let me just say this. Let me just tell you this. Our jury system, our Constitution, 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments apply to these trials. You're supposed to be able to confront your accuser. But what we're trying to tell you is you can't confront a cop that's heard everybody testify and then he makes up a script, because no matter what you say, they have already countered what everybody else has said. So you can say, well, aren't you lying? Didn't you? Even if you could say, didn't you lie about a trial for someone else last year? Well, that's not relevant to whether these guys committed this crime, because that's what the jury has to decide. Did they commit this crime? So whether he lied before is not relevant to now, and the jury's supposed to be decided who's telling the truth. Well, how can they tell when the guy's heard everything everybody else has said and he gets up there and makes it the story he wants them to say, and they practice with the witnesses?
Ultimately, it's up to the jurors. You can catch, they caught so many lies.
They don't
In my
care.
case, the original drug amounts in my case was like 22.18 kilograms. One informant that was testifying, he testified that he bought about 16 kilograms from us over the course of about 2.5 years. Kent Schaefer, through a private investigator, discovered that the boy was in prison 3/4 of the time that he claimed to be buying cocaine from us, and those, I think it was 16 or so kilos, were thrown out of court. But even throughout all the lies, the bottom line is the case is going before the jury. There were other lies that were discovered. But at the end of the day, the jury has to decide, is he guilty or is he innocent? And before they even try the case, the jurors will tell you, they ask questions during, is it voir dire?
Voir dire.
They ask questions. Do you believe that this person is innocent or guilty?
Just by looking
not having heard any facts or anything, just
and half
looking at
the jury is going to raise their hand and say he must be guilty. He's here.
9 out of 10 of them are going to say the same
Right.
thing.
That's the problem. So whatever the prosecutors feed them, especially, and jurors love hearing about one of the guys who's dirty testifying against the other guys. So that's why it doesn't matter what they say. They can lie. People feel like, oh, now, shoot, we got an inside track. Now we know they all guilty because their partners are testifying against them.
Right.
And
So
they all look alike.
And they
Right.
ain't listening. They're not listening anymore.
That's right.
And they don't know that the government might have written a script. They might not even know each other. Because in
Right.
feds, to be a conspiracy case, you don't have to know each other.
Right.
But see, the lawyers out have pencil and paper, and most jurors don't have any paper. They're just sitting there listening.
Right.
So all they're trying to decide is, did he do it or did he not do it?
Right.
Thank you for calling. Do we have another phone call?
Ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice.
This country spends 70.
Let's let him talk.
Oh.
So, sorry about that. So let me just tell you, speak his case, young man. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I had a question. What's the statute of limitations of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon with bodily injury?
I do know the answer to that question, but I'm not going to answer that tonight, if you don't mind. I want to stick to just federal sentencing, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the feds. Do you have a comment about the feds?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'll give you a general answer. Generally, on most felony cases that are state, the statute of limitations is 3 years. There are specific statute of limitations for cases like rape. It might be 10 years after the girl turns 18, a boy turns 18. Murder, there is no statute of limitations, but the general catch-all is 3 years for a felony. Okay? Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, we got 1 minute to wrap this up. Can you believe that, Troy?
I can't believe it. I can't
As
believe it.
usual. Well, I'm so excited about the good news, and that is you got out, and you've never gone back. You've been working ever since you got out.
Yes,
Tell our people that as soon as you got out of prison, what year was that?
2008, August 25th, 2008, I was released from federal prison. 3 weeks later, I landed a job through a temporary agency, A1 Personnel, with the city of Houston right after Hurricane Ike. And I've been basically employed with the city since then. I've been doing good. I started off making $8 an hour through the temp agency. I make $17.50 right now.
All right.
Which is not a lot, but it's a long way from the 25 cents I was working in federal prison making. And I'm excited about it. And you mentioned the people that are now being released from federal prison and politicians being afraid that the drug dealers will get back out and terrorize the country. Most of the guys, 9.5 out of 10 of the guys that I was incarcerated with, we keep in touch. And most of the guys that get out, they get out and do the right thing. They're working or they're doing whatever they have to do to try to make it. I've only heard a few guys in my 7 years of being home who've actually gone back. And so that's just a lie. But, you know, bad news travels faster than good news. But, you know, I'm a living testimony of the fact that you can get out if you got your mind made up to do right. You can get out. You may not be making all those thousands of dollars a day that you were making, but neither are you rotting in prison. So all I can say to guys that are getting out, man, have a made up mind, never to go back. I tell my family I'll stand on the corner with that sign saying we'll work for food before I go back. And if you have that type of attitude, you'll never go back and you'll do some good things. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for telling us your story. You're the last story for 2015. Danny, thank you as always for participating. I'm getting the wrap up now sign.
Merry Christmas.
So say something real quickly, and what do you want to say?
I want to say Merry Christmas. Jesus is the reason for the season. And I saw a T-shirt that said, up with Jesus, down with Santa. So, you know.
Well, Happy New Year, happy holidays. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Let's have a great 2016. Troy, will you come back again? Don't be a stranger for 2 years.
Yes, ma'am, I won't.
Okay. Will you be back, Danny?
I will if you have me.
Okay. You see, we wore our red because it's December, okay? Danny made me wear red. So good night. Thank you for watching. Remember, I want to tell your story, and you're welcome to Google me, call me, and let's set something up for next year. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good.